Thank you to Rocket Money for sponsoring today's video. More about them later. On my channel, I love to talk about nostalgia. Whether it's liminal space photography or a deep dive into forgotten aesthetics, I love looking back at the past and reminiscing on the things that once were. In a world that's losing its color and being taken over by artificial intelligence, and everything is just so bad, sometimes it's just better to look at Pinterest boards to travel back in time and forget about everything. Just kidding, I'm making fun of people who think like that. Things are not that bad. But I do like to sometimes indulge in the toxic realm of nostalgia. In this video, I'll be covering 8 aesthetics and styles that I find nostalgic, and then ranking them on a tier from bring this back as soon as possible, appreciate it for what it was, stay in the past, and delete from history. With that said, let's jump into it, and shout out to the Aesthetics Wiki, they provided a lot of useful information. Monster and nu metal are the two key components to what is called older brother core. I guess another key component would be the brother aspect. This aesthetic revolves around the stereotypical older sibling you'd have throughout the 2000s to early 2010s. The traits and associations of this older brother are the following. Good at Guitar Hero, has cool posters in their room, can play an instrument, probably plays the Xbox 360 or original Xbox, eats Doritos, drinks Mountain Dew, wears wristbands and bracelets, listens to nu metal, has a CRT TV, wears Affliction shirts, has DC shoes, and many more. This aesthetic hits pretty close to home for me. There were people in my life when growing up that pretty much embodied the older brother aesthetic. Along with this, I actually am the older brother in my family, but just a few years too late for it to be this cool. Am I older brother coded?
What?
My older brother core?
Yes.
Do I wear cool monster wristbands?
No.
Do I play Guitar Hero and drink slushies? When I think of this, what comes to my mind is the music video for the Hell song by Sum 41. The video is of the band playing with action figures, and it's pretty badass and heavily coated with that early 2000s nostalgia. In fact, most of Sum 41's music videos capture the older brother essence pretty well. I always remember growing up and watching the music video for motivation, and just being jealous that I didn't get to have this cool, edgy teenage bedroom. Another piece of media that screams this aesthetic is none other than the gas station scene from Diary of a Wimpy Kid, Roderick Rules. This trilogy has a lot of cool Big Brother moments, but the best one to me is right here.
All I can say is get ready to have your mind blown. We are gonna have an epic night.
I'm sure you get the vibe at this point if you haven't already. I'm a pretty big fan of this one. I'll be putting older brother core at appreciate it for what it was, because I feel like most of these big brothers smell like sweat and Doritos. It should also be a crime to be this cool. And speaking of crimes, it should be a crime if you're not using Rocket Money. I recently found out that I've been paying for a Minecraft realm that I haven't played in probably over a year. That 2-week Minecraft phase came and went, but that recurring bill stayed and charged me every month. The only way I found out about this was thanks to Rocket Money. I was able to see all of my subscriptions on the recurring section. Thankfully, the majority of these subscriptions are services that I actually want, but subscribing to things and then forgetting about it happens all too often. With Rocket Money, you can cancel these pesky subscriptions with just a few clicks. It's that easy. Not only does Rocket Money spot recurring bills that you're paying for, but it also helps you manage your money better. This has been my ride for the last year now, and while it is pretty cool, I think it's time for an upgrade. Rocket Money gives me the options to set up budgets, which can help significantly, especially since I'd like to get a new car. And it even gives me data on how I spend my money. I should probably cut down on Starbucks and random Walmart trips before it adds up and then makes me broke. So just to recap everything, Rocket Money is the best personal finance app that allows you to manage your subscriptions, lower bills, build a custom budget, and grow your savings all in one place. As I've pretty much said, I love using Rocket Money to help budget better and to cut back on spending money. To save more and spend less, join the over 5 million members using Rocket Money today.
Right now, today.
Go to rocketmoney.com/JadenSalads or click the link in the description to get started for free. That's rocketmoney.com/JadenSalads to get started for free. Imagine this. You're a 30-something-year-old art teacher exploring the streets of New York City. It's an autumn Sunday. There's a cool breeze and fall leaves are everywhere. As you're walking around the streets, the people look like this, and the pleasant sounds of world beats are quietly playing in the background. Eventually, you stumble upon a coffee house, and you walk inside. The lights are dim, everything feels warm, and of course, it smells like coffee. You get your favorite brew, sit down, and then you read a book. This to me is what art teacher core looks and feels like. Hopefully I'm not the only one. In relation to the art teacher thing, it's better known as something else. In the late 80s to mid 90s, an aesthetic known as Global Village Coffee House started to become very prevalent. It's described as being inspired by the ambience and cultural diversity often found in coffee houses around the world. It blends elements of bohemian, eclectic, and cozy atmospheres with a touch of international flair. During the tech boom of the mid-1990s, Global Village Coffee House, GVC for short, attempted to rebel against fastly emerging aesthetics such as Y2K futurism. GVC kept it simple and stayed true to its natural, cozy feel, whereas the Y2K craze had a heavy focus on bright, shiny, futuristic, and unnatural stuff. You would commonly find GVC in the following three places: coffee houses, Panera Bread, and bookstores. Some items or things that are reminiscent of this aesthetic to me are these soap bottles, these types of paintings, cozy lights, and this style of art. I also think that the song New Soul by Yael Naim, I'm just gonna say that, is pretty art teacher coded.
I'm a new soul, I came to this train.
Actually, I take that back. I don't think that song really fits the vibe that well. But a song that does fit perfect with the GVC thing and the art teacher core is Norah Jones' Don't Know Why. This one is a bop.
I waited till I saw the sun. I don't know why it didn't come.
When comparing the nostalgic feel of GVC to the modern day styles of coffee houses and bookstores, I honestly appreciate it a lot for ever existing. I know minimalism is and has been the cool thing to do with the interior and exterior of big businesses, but let's bring this back. It's so warm and inviting, it's honestly a shame that this type of setting isn't as seen these days. Bring it back. For the next entry, it is none other than the king of all aesthetics, Frutiger Aero. When this aesthetic was reminded to everybody sometime a few years ago, it blew up. Everybody started talking about the fabled Frutiger Aero, some disliked it, but for the most part, the internet raved over this one. If you've somehow missed out on the Frutiger Aero resurgence, it was essentially a popular design style that was prevalent in advertising, media, stock imagery, and technology from the late 2000s to early 2010s. This would also be following the end of the Y2K futurism era, and then Frutiger Aero followed after. I'm also just going to refer to it as Aero from now on, because in this video where I talk about Frutiger Metro, something kinda similar, it was just too much Frutiger. I was saying it way too much. Frutiger Metro. 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 Aero consisted of glossy textures, cloudy skies, nature, tropical fish, water, bubbles, lens flares, bright vibrant colors, the Frutiger font, and often at times, Skeuomorphism, which I'll be covering after this one. This aesthetic could be found in desktop wallpapers, video game consoles, video game menus, plastic toys from the 2000s, offices from the 2000s, dish soap, movies and TV shows. You could find it in a lot of different places. I personally love anything that has to do with Frutiger Aero, even though it can look pretty dated and tacky. I was pretty on the fence of where I was going to rank this one, and here's what it came down to. Aero, as a concept, is really comforting to me. It's very hopeful for a better future, it's very big and bright, and if this was a reality I could choose to live in, I would definitely want that. But Aero, as an aesthetic and style in the real world that we live in, I just don't really see a need for it to make a comeback. If it did have a big resurgence, I wouldn't be complaining, but I find it at best if we just appreciate it for what it was. Skeuomorphism is defined as the design concept / aesthetic of making items that resemble their real-world counterparts. The most popular example of this is the old iPhone interface from iOS 1 to 6. I miss you guys. Skeuomorphism would eventually fade away and be replaced by glassmorphism, which is a more simple and flat design style. Glassmorphism doesn't look bad, but it's just so common that it's almost kind of boring at this point. There was definitely more creativity involved with the skeuomorphic designs, but this doesn't always mean that it's totally necessary. Had iPhone apps continued to look this way, I think people would have grown tired of it. Just imagine 2024 and your phone looks like this. Eventually, this was going to feel clunky and outdated. Don't get me wrong, I do love skeuomorphism and the attention of detail that's attached to it, but we should just be thankful it ever existed.
I hate my life and I wanna die. I ain't got no iPhone.
The next aesthetic is 2010's internet, back when things were super random and colorful. I grew up online during the 2010s, and it was honestly the coolest thing ever. It was the epic awesome sauce, there was old Roblox, it was just the early 2010s internet. There was nothing, you just can't recreate this. A big part of this aesthetic is the memes from back then. There was Rage Comics, Epic Face, Nyan Cat, YouTube Poops,
Bitch, up your bitch.
MLG, there was a lot going on. 2010's internet is made up of so many things, obviously, such as online fandoms, slang from back then, creepypastas, flash games, mobile games, YouTubers, Vine. There's honestly too much to mention. I missed the early days of me being on the internet. It was just a completely different time, as you already know. It was still full of brain rot and toxicity like the modern day internet is. Well, there was no artificial intelligence back then aside from like Akinator. But back then, the internet was much more charming, innocent, and exciting. I have no choice but to appreciate it for what it once was. You can't redo this. I mean, you just gotta be happy it ever happened. The old emo art style is commonly associated with both alternative music genres and the beginning of the internet age, frequently found in art from the 2000s and early 2010s. Despite me being pretty young in the early to mid 2010s, I remember seeing this art style everywhere online. I was pretty involved with different quote-unquote emo groups on Instagram, like My Chemical Romance and just anime stuff, and it was kind of hard not to see this little guy. I think this character design is heavily inspired by the one seen in Invader Zim, which was also pretty popular in scene culture at the time. Some other art styles that had an influence on this sort of thing was the anime chibi stuff and Tim Burton. There's not much else to say about this one. It can stay in the past. I mean, I don't think anybody's gonna cry if we just kind of forget about it. The 2000s virtual singer was an aesthetic and character trope based around fictional mascots that many companies used and were popular approximately from 2005 to the mid-2010s. The first big use of a virtual singer was for a German company called Jamba. They specialized in creating and selling ringtones for mobile phones in the early to mid-2000s. The way they go about marketing this to people was by having an animated figure sing the ringtone. Crazy Frog also got pretty popular from this, along with the legend himself, the Gummy Bear. Virtual singers would slowly fade into obscurity when smartphones became the new thing to have, as you could just buy a ringtone on the App Store as opposed to paying a monthly fee for a stupid song. The virtual singers gave us some internet classics like the Gummy Bear song, it popularized Axel F by Crazy Frog, but we also have some pretty punchable faces like this stupid bunny. This can stay in the past. I'm not even sure if I can call this last entry an aesthetic, but it's a piece of internet culture that needs to be revisited. This is, of course, the deep-fried meme era. Sometime during the mid to late 2010s, people online decided to take a picture or meme and then deep fry it. You would accomplish this by cranking up the saturation of an image and then adding a bunch of other filters and effects. Just looking back at some of these dank deep-fried memes, they've aged pretty badly. Like, what is this? Deep-fried memes have been associated with the band kid stereotype. I was definitely a band kid myself whenever I would repost these onto my Instagram meme page. The deep-fried meme is a thing, and that thing can be deleted from history. Begone thought, boy. Do y'all remember that yeah boy kid?
Yeah, boy!
Thank you for watching the video. All of the topics I covered have a special place in my heart. Huge thank you to everybody who makes me fan art as always, and here's a shout out to everybody on the Patreon. There's a lot of new people on there, and I have a quick thing to say to you. If you haven't sent me a picture yet and you're subscribed to the Patreon, please send it to me on Discord, whether it's in the Patreon chat on my Discord server or in a private message. Until you have sent me an image of what you want me to use for when I shout you out, I can't really put anything, so there you go. African Sugars, Basmic, Bella M, Big Jickle, Damn Sandy, Evan W, Eyeball Dude, Jera, Josh S, Josh Wynn, Landon Rodriguez, Pajamas, LeBron James Hairline, Leon S, Lostas, Lottie Dottie, Mommy Trash Sack, Matt Sat on a Cat, Miko, Microwave Be Like Must Lord, Nate Paul, Primavera, Racetrack Dragon, RBC Denson, Matt McCusker, Cher, Shiny Breakson, and Zyre.
I go to sleep at 9 o'clock, this bitch stays up all night, but I see through you. I took a nap right on my glasses.